Hi, and welcome to my third vlog in the series for St Mary's University. This vlog will focus on my coaching style and my coaching philosophy and evaluate them both to see how I can improve as a coach. The client in this session will be an athlete who has had very little to no experience with weights, but does want to improve her leg power and leg strength, and with that we will be focusing on her squat technique. It will follow a plan, do, and review style, where previous to today I have planned a session for her. We will carry out the session, and then at a later date I will review it, and that review will be in the vlog. Without further ado, may as well crack on. Enjoy.
Under your heels. So put those just under your heels and just your heels, and try squat like that. Yeah, exactly what I said before. How's that feel? You can either across your like that, or some people go out into a mummy pose. So that. How'd that feel?
It's like my toes are better.
But they're not lifting up. I didn't see they were. Good to know you've noticed the difference.
As you can see, that's just an extract of the full coaching session. At this point, the athlete was not able to use a bar and had to focus on her ability to maintain form in a repeated bodyweight squat. The rest of this vlog will focus on my coaching philosophy and the critical analysis of my coaching process, with a direct focus on my verbal feedback towards the athlete throughout the session. Within coaching, there are several different styles that can be used or combined to be used dependent on the situation and the athlete or athletes at hand. Personally, I adhere more to the command style with newer athletes. This is to increase their background knowledge and help them advance. The clip ahead shows more of the command style I use.
I won't correct it, like I won't correct anything technique, just what you think 10 squats are facing the mirror.
Just without anything there.
Without anything, and then we'll go.
As the athlete or athletes develop and become more proficient in their skill set, I try to advance onto a guided discovery style, aiming to help the athletes help themselves and increase their cognitive involvement within a session. Due to the nature of the athlete's skill set, there wasn't much of an opportunity to use a guided discovery technique within this coaching session. As the athlete or athletes develop and become more proficient in their skill set, I try to advance onto a guided discovery style, aiming to help the athletes help themselves and increase their cognitive involvement within a session. Due to the nature of the athlete's skill set, there wasn't much of an opportunity to use a guided discovery technique within this coaching session. My aim as a coach is to make an athlete independent and understand how to train and how to improve in their desired areas without a dependency on a coach for advice or guidance, and this can only come from teaching them the principles and questioning their knowledge as they develop. Coaching is just as much a cerebral and intellectual improvement as it is a physical one for the athlete. All these styles are based off Mostyn and Ashworth's theories of all coaching styles. I'll now focus on my abilities to coach and see where my strengths and weaknesses are within my sessions, looking at weaknesses first. In this extract of the session and what is seen throughout this session, I've positioned myself in a suitable place to be able to see the athlete squat. However, I feel I should be more responsive and give more verbal feedback so the athlete does not feel judged or awkward. The silence can often make the athlete feel self-conscious and feel that they are being judged. It's something I definitely need to work on in the future. Even in this lunge exercise, I feel I'm just stood watching and not offering much in the way of my own coaching feedback for the athlete. This may be my own personal dissatisfaction within my coaching style. However, I do think it is something I can improve upon to offer the athlete or client a better quality service when they come to me. I also feel like my verbal feedback is less than adequate when I do speak. I don't feel I make enough of a conscious effort to critique the athlete's movement patterns, and the feedback was more generic and not specific enough. Typical words were good and keep going, and these are not helpful for the movement, and they don't offer any sort of encouragement to the athlete.
Okay, good. Sit back
As can be seen by the clips just shown, there are several circumstances in which these generic statements are used. However, after review of the session, there is a clear difference of my language used as the session progresses.
Keep driving through your feet. Right. Good. You're good at keeping your chest up as well, as in facing forward. Drive through those heels. Imagine a piece of string is connected to the back of your head, to your spine, along your spine. Is keeping your chest. Brush it too much. You want that time of tension just so that you.
The statements become much more specific to the movement pattern and to the demands of the movement, and help the athlete to understand how they should be moving while also commenting on their positives of the exercise. I feel this is due to a more comfortable situation as I get used to being either on camera or within the one-to-one session with my client. As shown previously, my communication is a very weak point of my coaching, specifically with cueing. There needs to be an increase and improvement in this area, preferably with external cueing. This will increase movement efficiency when coaching novice athletes. I also feel I need to improve body language towards the athlete and making sure I don't seem uninterested in the session or uninterested in their skill set or movements. I definitely need to find a way to improve these in the future, therefore also improving my coaching sessions. In this adaptation of the exercise, I feel I didn't overload the athlete with too much information and gave simple, clear instructions, built up over the previous adaptations of the exercise, which is something I always try to achieve in my coaching and is part of my philosophy. Often I tell the athlete to perform a movement and not focus too much on the technical model at the start, giving more implicit instruction and correct as necessary with explicit instruction as the session continues. This is to try not to make the client too reliant on information from me and only when it is completely necessary. If the athlete continued to struggle, another intervention would be necessary to help them learn, be that they adapt the exercise to a box squat or change the visualization and analogy used. I think this is actually a strength of mine, the ability to adapt an exercise to meet the athlete's need or skill level, or if they are struggling with injury or restricted movement. Occasionally I have to use analogies to help the athletes visualize the movement pattern, especially if they are struggling with the movement demanded. This can be seen in this clip where I describe a squat technique as sitting on the toilet or on a chair or box.
Try to focus, try to think of it as if I'm sitting on the toilet. Imagine you're sitting back on the toilet. No, I know it's a unusual way to do it. As if you're sitting back on a chair. Try to do it as if you're sitting back on a chair.
I feel I was able to adapt the session appropriately to the athlete's skill capabilities, and I've always found this a strength of mine. However, when it comes to coaching agility or in an athletics field, I feel I may struggle as I am much more comfortable in a gym-based environment. As well as adapting a session, I feel I'm able to instruct the athlete appropriately without overloading them with too much information, and occasionally using analogy or imagery when necessary. This will continue to help me when working with novice clientele, as particularly with advanced clientele, they tend to know basic movement patterns, therefore don't need to focus too much on analogies or imagery and need to focus more on cueing. As clearly stated, there are limitations to my coaching philosophy and practice, and there is room for improvement. One area that I feel could definitely be improved is the coaching style that I use. Instead of using command or guided discovery, it may be more appropriate to use the divergent style, as this allows for athletes to figure out the movements for themselves and helps the athlete become proficient in the desirable skills in a quicker time frame. Another area that could definitely be improved upon is my external cueing. Even with novice athletes as this was, I should still use the correct technical external cueing to make the athlete aware of the outcome of the movement or skill. In this exercise of the squat, I should be saying push through the floor or push the floor away instead of drive through the heels. As you can see, this has been a very useful tool in evaluating my coaching ability. And in the future, I'll definitely do this again just to see where my weaknesses are and how I can improve. Hopefully today you will have learned something about my coaching process and maybe you can take something from it yourself. Thanks for watching guys and hope you enjoyed. Cheers.